The year was 1944. On a jagged, volcanic island in the Mariana Chain sat Base Iron Ridge. It wasn't a place of glory. It was a place of rust and humidity. The air was so thick it felt like breathing through a wet blanket. At the center of this base was Corporal Silas Old Man Vance. Silas was only 26, but the Pacific War had aged him by decades. He was a radio technician, responsible for the year of the island, a massive, wobbling antenna that stood on the highest cliff, straining to catch the whispers of the enemy or the cries of lost American pilots. Life at Iron Ridge was a test of patience. Most days were spent fighting off tropical rot, cleaning salt off equipment, and watching the horizon for a Japanese fleet that everyone knew was out there, but no one could see. The men lived in Quonset huts, corrugated, metal tunnels that turned into ovens during the day, and echoing drums during the frequent tropical rainstorms. One Friday night, a storm like no other rolled in. The sky turned a bruised purple, and the wind began to howl through the volcanic caves, sounding like 1,000 ghosts. The base went into blackout mode. Every light was extinguished to hide from the Japanese submarines that often patrolled the deep waters nearby. Silas sat in the cramped radio hut, the smell of ozone and hot vacuum tubes filling his nose. Rhythmic tapping broke through. Dot, dot, dot. Dash, 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 dot, dash, dot. It was an SOS. It was coming from a stranded American patrol boat that had hit a hidden reef on the far, jagged side of the island. They were taking on water, and the enemy was closing in. The base commander delivered the grim news. We can descend a rescue team in this storm. We don't even know their exact coordinates. If that antenna goes down, they're dead men. The antenna hadn't fallen, but the main lead wire had snapped, whipping wildly in the 80-mile-per-hour winds. Silas knew what he had to do. He grabbed a heavy leather belt, a coil of copper wire, and stepped out into the teeth of the gale. The climb up Iron Ridge was a nightmare. The volcanic rock was slick with rain and moss. Twice Silas slipped, his boots dangling over a 300-foot drop into the churning white surf below. When he reached the top, the wind tried to throw him off the cliff. He saw the snapped wire dancing in the dark. Silas lunged for it, catching the metal cable. A surge of static electricity bit into his palms, but he didn't let go. He couldn't tie it with frozen fingers. There was only one way to complete the circuit. Silas wrapped the wire around his own arm and grabbed the terminal on the antenna base. He became the conductor. The current from the radio transmitter pulsed through his body, making his muscles twitch with agony. He gritted his teeth, his vision blurring, and screamed into the wind, but he didn't let go. Down in the hut, the radio suddenly surged back to life. "We have them!" the operator yelled. He watched the tiny, flickering lights of the patrol boat far below as they finally found the entrance to the safe cove. When the storm finally broke at dawn, a search party found Silas slumped against the base of the antenna. His arm was badly burned, and his hair was matted with salt and blood. He was shivering so hard he couldn't speak, but his eyes were fixed on the lagoon. They carried him down to the infirmary. Later that day, the men from the patrol boat, exhausted, wet, but alive, came to see him. Their captain stood by Silas, sped and looked at the bandaged arm of the man who had quite literally held their lives together. "Why didn't you just tie the wire and run for cover?" the captain asked in a low voice. Silas looked out the window at the now calm blue Pacific. "Because in the dark, you don't just hope for a bridge. You have to be one." Base Iron Ridge was eventually dismantled after the war ended. But if you talk to the veterans of the 7th Fleet, they still tell the story of the man who turned himself into a wire just to bring his brothers home.